Hey everyone, just want to give you an update on a few projects as well as the current status of issues with a few asset packages that I've mentioned in the past. Since none of these topics really merit their own video, I figured I'd just make a single cumulative video. I don't want to spam you guys with a bunch of short videos. So first up, we've hit a problem, a snag with the voxel framework. So I just happened to try to build it into an exe to look at like performance and things like that. And for some reason, even though the prefab utility C# code works in runtime when you're using it in the editor, it does not want to compile into when you're trying to build it into an exe. As you can see, we have error messages where they don't like the prefab utility. They also don't want like one of the other arguments concerning interaction mode, and then it just will not build. So as a quick refresher, that's this right here. So the way it works is you place the blocks you make in the shape that you want. You hit the save button. When you hit the save button, this line of code executes. And I tested again; it still works. It's not like it was deprecated or anything. So this line of code does work. It does indeed save the object into your asset area. But when you try to turn this into an executable, when you try to go to File, you go to build settings and you try to build it, it fails. I've placed a a question on the forums. We'll see if anyone can give any assistance. Forums can be hit or miss. I don't mean that as a criticism because obviously that's mainly people helping on their free time. So, anything they do is wonderful. But because of that, you don't necessarily get an answer to your question. So we'll see what happens with that, but for the moment, this can't be turned into a standalone exe because of that. So it can still be used as essentially a mod. I can still upload this to itch, and you would download it. You could make shapes. You would get your prefab, and then you could just like drag and drop it into your primary project, but that you cannot at this moment turn it into an exe. So one thing that could be done is you certainly could take out this code, eliminate the ability to save, and at that point it's just really a toy. It's a plaything. You could give it to someone so they could draw, they could take a screenshot, that kind of thing. And I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I had higher hopes than just having yet another 3D paint program. I was really hoping that it could actually make assets that would help developers going forward, even if it is just placeholder graphics. As I said, the more we can do to get people to stay in Unity, because every time someone closes out Unity and they have to go somewhere else to do something for their game, you're giving people a reason to not come back to Unity. So the more we can integrate into Unity, the more useful it becomes. The more we can empower people to use Unity. Anyways, so I'm going to try to see if I can figure this out. Like I said, I put the comment on the forums. I've done some research. I haven't found anything about it yet, but like I said, I will probably still put it up on itch, and just with the caveat that that is the current state of it, because otherwise it works just fine. Okay, so that was this first issue. Next, just a few updates concerning some of the asset packages that I've reviewed. I'm just going to go to the Unity website rather than open all the individual projects just to point things out. So first up, Color Studio by Connect. I reviewed this one some time ago. Basically, it integrates a paint program right in Unity. So talking about, putting functionality into Unity that isn't normally there, this creates a simple paint program. Anyway, so this is actually a correction retraction on my part, because in the upper left corner here, you can see it says 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. Those are preset sizes, and I thought that was it. Those are the only sizes you could choose, when clearly staring me right in the face, there is a field that says width and height and a button that says set size. So yeah, you can set this to just about any size you want. If you make the size too big, then these individual squares really become too small to draw on, but it's definitely way more versatile than I thought. It is way more than just those 5 choices. You can manually choose just about any size you want. Again, they're staring me right in the face, and so a minor retraction. Everything else I think was fine in the review, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys good, honest information. I will say this though, I don't know why they put this here, because since this is related to this functionality, you think it would be right up there. So all the similar functionality is together, but that's minor. But I've always been more of a functionality over aesthetics kind of person. I can't make something look good as a layout if my life depended on it, but I can put similar functionality together. But that's just my design preference. Okay, so that's the first thing. Next, this one I did a couple videos about. So this publisher hit, I had bought two packages from them, and then I noticed substantial issues with at least one of the packages. And then if you try to install both packages into the same project, they both got dumped into the same folder, and it was the name of whichever one you installed first. So if you installed Witch A first, you would have a folder called Witch A, and then if you installed the other one, Gunwoman, then Gunwoman would get installed inside of the Witch A folder instead of having its own folder. I've bought multiple packages from other publishers and never saw that. So there's something weird about the way these packages were constructed. I already said what my theory was. It really doesn't matter because it's just the theory. But anyway, so the update is that, as I had said, the publisher was denying me a refund, and they said they really didn't know anything about Unity. And so I had reported the assets to the Unity store. A rep did get back in touch with me. She confirmed that yes, that it is the publisher's responsibility to do a refund, but since they were denying me one and that I demonstrated there really was an issue, they went ahead and gave me the refund. So a little bit of good news. I got the refund on that. But honestly, I'd rather see the assets be fixed. I'd rather see that the store only has good assets. So we'll see what happens. But she said that they had indeed identified the issue. But since I got my refund, that was probably the end of the ticket, and they closed it out. But I can see that this has not updated yet. So I don't know what has to be done to be fixed it to fix it. I don't know if they reached out to this person and they're giving them like a grace period to get it fixed, but clearly this has not been updated anytime recently. So just so you know, if these were assets you were looking at, that there are indeed moderate to severe issues with them. And that was just one of the issues. There was another issue with missing meshes, but I don't want to, relitigate all that. Just want to give you the update that, yes, they did indeed give me a refund. Yes, they did indeed confirm there was an issue and they identified what the source was. No, they didn't tell me what it was. And from what I can see, the packages haven't been updated. So I'd recommend probably steering away from these for the time being. But again, that is absolutely your choice what you do. Okay, so last one is Cartoon Army Vehicles by Polysquid. So this was another one that I reviewed and said that for the most part I really liked it, but there was one thing that was really weird about it. So these are all clearly vehicles. You have some bases too, power-ups, but the overwhelming majority are vehicles, and vehicles are meant to be mobile. Clearly, this is meant to be some kind of combat game, some kind of like tank vehicle combat game. Okay, but for some reason the front of the mesh does not match the front of the object. So the side of the mesh is the front of the object. So if I was to say to this, if I was to put, a script on this object and say, look at another object, it wouldn't point with the cab, it would face it sideways. And then if you said, okay, move towards that object, it would move sideways toward the object. So for whatever reason, the side of the object is the side of the mesh is the front of the object. I've never seen that done before, and I could understand if that was done with an object that is usually stationary, like a building or something. It doesn't really matter what the actual front of the object is. But when you're dealing with objects that are meant to be mobile, it's just a weird oversight. So, not trying to nitpick or run them down. In fact, there's at least one way around this that's fairly easy. I just thought that it was really odd that that would miss QA testing. It's almost like they made the models and then didn't actually test it to see how they worked, because telling an object to look at another object, that's not unusual. And I presume that you'd get the same results using the nav mesh and nav mesh agent, because again, it's looking at an object and traveling towards it. Anyway, so the easy workaround is you can create an empty parent, take this object, rotate it either 90 or negative 90 degrees, whatever it takes to rotate the front, and child this to that empty object. So in other words, you're aligning the front of the child mesh to the front of the parent object, excuse me. So you're creating an empty parent to impose a rotation onto this, and then you are then putting the controls onto that empty parent. So as far as, again, if you're using a nav mesh agent or you're using a script, whatever you're doing, the control would be put on that empty parent rather than the child object that has the meshes. You shouldn't have to, in my opinion. I don't think you should have to do that, but it is an easy workaround. Tech Dave suggested that possibly it can be fixed in Pro Builder. It certainly is. It's a possibility. I just don't know enough about Pro Builder, but since he recommended that, I did want to make sure that I mentioned it to you guys. I'm sure at least some of you know way more about Pro Builder than I do. So, a couple ways to go about that. And anyway, so I reached out to the publisher when I first discovered this, and they said no one else had complained about it, but they could fix it. And I don't know, I waited like a month or something, and then I put my review on the Unity store. And again, I said it's a great package, but this issue, I believe, is severe enough to warrant an update. However, there are workarounds, and they again said they were going to fix it, but clearly, based on the date, they have not. So anyway, so that I think catches up to everything that I want to mention. So that's the status of those asset packages and the issues that I had mentioned, as well as the new issue the um, uh, with the Voxel framework. Sorry, I didn't really think this video out too clearly. It was basically a kind of spur of the moment. So my apologies if I'm kind of stumbling over things. Anyway, so that should about do it. I hope that you found this useful. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave those. If there's asset packages that you'd like to see reviewed, just let me know. Put that in the comments as well. And I hope you found this useful. And please do enjoy the rest of your day.